Hello and welcome back everybody, and today is a momentous day because not only are we celebrating the channel passing 30,000 subscribers, which by the way, thank you very much, but we're also going to be locking in the 10 worst players in challenge history. Now before we get started, I do want to put out a disclaimer saying that nothing in this video is personal. Everything that I'm about to say about the players in this video is based purely on their stats and what we saw of them on a very edited TV show on MTV and maybe a streaming service or two. So please, again, let's just have fun. Let's not be rude to anybody. If you agree or disagree with who I talk about in this video, leave it down in the comment section below, but let's all be courteous to one another, alright? Now, if you've been around the channel for a while or so, or even just checked out some of my popular videos, you might be scratching your head saying, hey, Angel Cake, did you make a video like this? And the short answer is, I did. But that video was done over 3 years ago. And looking back at that video, I have some critiques about myself and the process that I made when making that video. Oh, just look at him. So young, naive, could barely do some chroma key and Premiere edit. I made that video when I was just starting to venture into more varieties of content than reviews and recaps of episodes. Not saying at the time I wasn't proud of the video, but I'll say my opinions in the video was more based off of personal subjectivity. Shailene Sutherland from War of the Worlds, she only had one challenge season, and that was enough for everybody to say, okay, maybe we don't want to see her back on any of the challenge, but she did do better than this next person on the list, and that was Chase McNary, another Bachelor alum. He is known for being a stage 5 clinger to Nani, but 3 years later, growing in content creation, being able to rewatch multiple seasons and the series multiple times, as well as having more contemplation and more gray hairs in my beard than back then. But I think now is a time where I can definitely look at competitors and players and being more objective in trying to figure out who the worst players in challenge history are. Now, before I start just naming the 10 players that I deem the worst players in challenge history, I do want to go over my process of how I came to those 10 names, because I think that is important here. Now, if you just want to hear the 10 names, here's the time marker. You can jump straight to that point of the video, but I do want to lay out the groundwork of every single process that I went through, because I am taking this very seriously. Heck, why do you think I'm wearing this lab coat? The challenge is a multifaceted game where you have to use your physical strength, strategic thinking, social game, and more in harmony to get far in a season. To get the most accurate depiction of a player's skill in all these areas, we need a big enough sample size. Meaning, the first parameter that I started looking at was players who have done more than one season. As fans of the show, we know that rookies do not get a fair shake at this game. The motto of every single season when it comes to rookies is, quote, earn your stripes, meaning that a first-year player for the most part, or even a 2-year player, will continuously be thrown into elimination over and over and over again. Ultimately, if a player is one and done, it's hard to understand exactly what kind of player they are in all the levels that I previously mentioned. And if you're a longtime fan of the show, you know that one season just isn't enough. I mean, if we took Cara Maria, Johnny Bananas, Evelyn's first seasons, you would think that, oh, they're not going to be that good. They were all out really early, episode 1 of their debut seasons. But they all went on to become legends and icons and champion of the challenge. And also with people having only one season, it's hard to definitively say that one person is worse than the other. Is a person that loses in episode 1's elimination worse than somebody who decides to quit in episode 1? Probably, yeah, but their stats on paper will look very similar. So who goes into what spot in the worst? Here are some players who had a poor performance in their only challenge season they appeared on. I mean, most notable is Brandon from season 28 Rivals 3, who quit and took his partner out with him because he missed his girlfriend. Dave was the same way. He didn't even say she was his girlfriend. He just said that there was just a girl back home, and he mainly wanted to quit because he wanted to eat pizza with ranch and Mountain Dew. All of these players had really bad seasons, and I don't blame anybody for mentioning them in the quote-unquote worst of all time conversation. But to me, for the exercise of this video, I just think that it is too narrow focus on trying to figure out who the worst challenger ever is, because these people were barely challengers in the first place. We never really got to see them play the actual game to the fullest to see if they could do anything more. Granted, if you're going to quit, there's not much more else you could give to the game, because you're most likely not going to get called back at all, which you shouldn't. If you're going to quit in the middle of your season or early on in your first ever challenge season, why would production want to give you more and more chances? Now, granted, there are some names of players that are coming up in this video that have quit and yet still got more and more chances, but we'll get to that. So when starting this project, I thought a good sweet spot for figuring out if a player has shown us enough would be in 3 seasons. 3 seasons into a challenge career, someone could have gotten off the initial rookie stigma, could establish some social ties, should have gotten used to being on the show, and find their footing during challenges or eliminations. The second initial parameter, which I think goes without saying, is no champions allowed. Over 300 people and counting have played on the challenge, where about 96 different people have been crowned champions. If someone has made it into the 1/3 selected players that has been able to call themselves a challenge champion, they have no reason to be on the worst challengers of all time list. Now, for most watching, you're probably going, yeah, no duh. But there are still some people that discredit certain one-time challenge champions or give all the credit to their partners, but at the end of the day, they're champions. They went through the same season as somebody else, and ultimately, luck plays a big factor into the game as well. So no matter who your partner is, you still had to do all the challenges during the season. You still have the possibility of going into multiple eliminations, whether they did or they didn't. They were able to make it to the finals, which not everybody on a season gets to do, and then they came out on top of a given season. No matter if they are overrated or underrated in the fandom, if you're a champion, there is no way that you can be on a list called the worst challengers of all time. And the final initial parameter that I was going through was that no one who has made a final should be on this list. Very similar to my stance on why champions shouldn't be on this list. If you had made it to a finals, you were in the top echelon of a season, and you beat out other players on that season, how, if you made it to a final, could you be on this list? Which we will see that I kind of softened my stance on this initial parameter later on in this video. But for now, when looking at those 3 initial parameters that I've set for this project, I got a list of a pretty decent number of players. I thought that this was a very promising start to the project. But when taking another look at the list and everybody's stats of the players that came up in this initial search, I think that there was a few players that kind of stood out that needed to be knocked off, being in contention for the worst players in the challenge. To me, Kahada was actually a good player who had some really tough luck. I mean, if he was given a shot in All-Stars 2 to possibly win and stay in the game rather than being disqualified because Casey was pregnant, I think he could have made it far. Same with Nam. He has the worst luck of all worst luck. So ultimately, I kept him off this list. Shane and Amanda hold the record for the most seasons without a finals appearance, but both filled the show with entertainment and drama, which is a major reason why they were brought onto the show. Especially Amanda, who I think has shown a lot of promise through her challenge career. More specifically, Final Reckoning. I really do think that Amanda and Zach could have really done it. I think they could have went the distance and easily smashed that final because of her contributions to the game from the entertainment side, the drama side, which, because this is the challenge and that also plays in a factor into a social game and the entertainment value, because this is a reality TV show. It's not a fifth sport. It is not a sporting event. This will never be a sporting event. This is a reality show. So after scratching off certain players, I felt that the list that we were left with gave us a lot of promise, that everybody who was left had a real chance of making the worst challengers list. But I kept thinking, what about players who have done 2 seasons with no final appearances. Who was I overlooking? Because realistically, I guess we could be making this video 3 years into the future, but I really wanted this to be very thorough in research and leaving no stones unturned. So I decided to figure out a list of all the players that have done 2 seasons and no final appearances. And these are all the players that populated in that search. Now, when taking a look at this list, some very interesting names are added to the mix. You have Derrick Henry, a Division I athlete and the mayor of Popcorn Muscle City, USA. Emily Fitzpatrick, 0 daily wins, 0-2 in eliminations. Isaac played in like 2 different eras of the show and sucked both times. And then I had one final thought. What about players that had done 3 or more challenge seasons and had made it to 1 final? I mean, in earlier seasons, everyone made it to the finals. And also there was a lot of team challenges in the beginning of the challenge series. And that right there can boost a lot of stats, whether it is daily challenge wins or just making it to a finals in general. So specifically, I looked up players that had done 3 or more seasons, 1 final appearance, and then had subpar stats. Whether it was daily challenge win percentage, elimination win percentages, who they won and lost against in those eliminations, these are the players that populated in that search as well. Some players that stand out to me on this list is Ace, made the finals in Inferno 3. Other than that, rarely made it past episode 3 of any season, besides like Gauntlet 2 where he made it to episode 8. Adam King made a finals in Gauntlet 3. He has a 2-3 elimination record. Only elimination wins came from Danny and Evan, who wanted to leave for schooling. So essentially his 2 elimination wins was somebody quitting and then Danny. A lot of people on my first rendition of this topic that they were shocked that Casey Cooper wasn't on that list. And many deem her to be the worst challenger of all time, or at least in the conversation. I just think that if someone holds a record or is tied for a record, a long ongoing challenge record of the most elimination wins in a single season, they can't be on this list. People will discredit Casey and saying that, oh, it was because she had Wes. He carried her through all those exiles to the finals. The problem is that, again, luck is based on this game. And maybe Casey did have some luck getting paired up with Wes on Fresh Meat. To me, I just can't put her on that list. Speaking of having Wes as a partner, we have Mandy, who has 1 daily win on her total challenge career, had Wes as a partner twice, and couldn't do what Casey did when she was partnered with him. And then there was Teresa. Now, I know Teresa has a lot of fans. I personally have felt that she has been overrated, especially when she was coming back for Double Agents. I think I was more excited because we hadn't seen her in quite a while, and I wanted to see how her game has evolved, and nothing changed. She was the exact same player. Her only final appearance was because Nia disqualified the night before on season 26, Battle of the Exes 2. She has a 2-7 elimination record. She won against Nani and Camilla, which is a plus, and she did bring some drama. Now, for anybody who is a Teresa fan but dislikes Amanda, I want you to see their stats side by side. I kind of just put their stats together, and when putting this list together, I was like, wow, they have very similar stats. Now, after going through all these parameters and coming up with multi-list of names, I needed some help. I did a Patreon exclusive live over at patreon.com/angelcakevids with the bakery, and we went through everyone. And real quick, while we're on the subject of Patreon, if you enjoy the content that I create and would like to support the channel further than just watching the YouTube videos and subscribing to the channel and leaving comments, which is very, very important, thank you so much. But if you would like to support the channel even further and support me as a content creator and get a ton of other exclusive content, please check out patreon.com/angelcakevids. In my years of running this channel, I have barely taken any sponsorships because I just feel some type of way pushing a product or app or service that I don't use myself. So if you would like to support the channel and myself, again, go check out patreon.com/angelcakevids. There's a link in the description. And if you have any questions about any of the tiers, please feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below. So from that Patreon exclusive live, which was like over 2 hours long, I left there with a list of 20 players to be possibly deemed the 10 worst challenge competitors of all time. Time to talk about the 10 worst challenge competitors in challenge history. Now, I'm just going to talk about these players in alphabetical order. I don't have these going from 10 to 1 or worst to not as worst. These players are just in alphabetical order. All right, so let's start off with Beth. Beth is a player that I felt got a lot of good faith by production because she was a very early on villain of the show. She has done 9 challenge seasons, 6 of them were teams, so her numbers I feel were very inflated with having a win percentage in daily challenges of about 45. She has won against Ruthie, Montana, and Kendall, all off of weight-based eliminations that highly favorite Beth. 9 times out of 10 in a reverse tug of war, whoever is the tallest or the heaviest will win outright, and we saw that with Ruthie. I doubt many people would say that Ruthie is a worse competitor than Beth, but because of her size, Beth was able to drag Ruthie and easily win because reverse tug of war is just not fair. Beth did bring drama, Beth did see one final, but what kind of nullifies that all out for me is how many times Beth came onto a season and just quit. She barely made it past episode 5 of any season and quit over 3 times. I know that Beth being on season 1 as a cameo and then being fully onto the challenge in season 2, that she is a founding mother of the show in a sense. But when looking at her stats solo-wise and how she couldn't better herself, whether it was socially, physically, or strategically. Next up is another no surprise, no shocker here, is Danny Jamison from Real World Austin. Again, another player whose stats were greatly inflated because of the time that he started to compete on the show. 6 challenge seasons, 4 team seasons, 43% win rate on daily challenges, but the major killer here is 6 eliminations seen and 0 wins. And the only time he really brought drama was when he was fighting with then girlfriend, fiance, and spouse Melinda on certain seasons, but realistically, Danny was never seen as a huge threat, and you kind of just expected him at a certain point to go into eliminations and get eliminated. The next player in this list is Dario. 4 seasons, he has a 25% win rate when it comes to daily challenges. He has seen 4 eliminations, he's 1 in 3, and ultimately that one win came because Nani and Nicole were facing each other in elimination, and Nani didn't want to send her own cousin home. Really, the last time we saw Dario was season 30, Dirty 30, and at a certain point, everybody forgot he was there because he just slept all the time. First of all, he was in the redemption house, and then he was just sleeping all the time. The dude really brought no entertainment or drama value. I will give him credit on one thing. Dario is responsible for one of my favorite challenge quotes of all time. He made his own team lose an elimination because he, quote, got too hype.
I thought it was over, dog. What is wrong with you? I got too hype.
Very forgettable player, except for that moment right there. And if that's your mark on the game, that just kind of proves where you lie on the list of worst players. Next up, we have Derrick Henry. Honestly, I was not going to put any 2-year players on this list. The thing was that Derrick Henry kept on popping up to me as a player that should have given us more. And honestly, we did not just see him on one season of the challenge. We saw him on Are You the One?, The Challenge, X on the Beach, Game of Clones. They really tried to make Derrick Henry Mr. MTV at a certain point, and he just never was able to stick around, or he never caught on with anybody. If you add up all of his MTV appearances, you basically can say we've seen him on like 4 or 5 seasons. His challenge stats were bottom of the barrel, being in 6 daily challenges, losing every single one of them, being 0 for 2 in eliminations against Corey and Josh/Sylvia, Never really brought any drama, no entertainment. I mean, this guy had all the potential. Division I athlete. He was tall. He had muscles, flings, and hookup possibilities, but that never really happened. He only got a segment at the Dirty 30 reunion because of Tori and Jordan's relationship and how it overlapped with Tori and Derrick's relationship. And then he got a call for Final Reckoning because Tori needed a +1 and MTV was trying to make Tori deal a thing. Which we're in 2023 now, and they're still making her like the face of the show, where Derrick Henry is nowhere to be seen because Tori and Jordan's relationship took over the airwaves. Whether they were boyfriend or girlfriend, getting engaged, or their breakup now. Granted, there is a sentence on his challenge wiki page saying that he was called and possibly going to be on the Challenge 36, yet they dropped him and he did not depart, which I think is telling that they had this guy. They called him up. He said, yes, I would love to do the challenge again, and they dropped him. Next up, we have Jasmine, who has done 6 challenge seasons. Her daily win record is about 17%. She has seen 7 eliminations and is 1-6 in those eliminations. With that one win really skewing over because of John A. and her puzzle-solving abilities, winning against Sarah and Caitlyn. And I know she brought drama. I know she's one of the smaller competitors. I know that's always going to make her a target in the game. I just think that when looking at the stats, cold, hard stats, that they were strong enough to make a case for her being in the bottom 10. And ultimately, her stats solidified this next player being here, and that is Josh Martinez. Now, when I posted this community post up on the channel, I was already knee-deep into research and this project, but I wanted to hear what everybody else thought about these players and who they deemed the worst. An overwhelming amount of responses said Josh, and I thought maybe this was recency bias. How bad was his stats? Like, I know his elimination record is terrible, but realistically, how bad was he? Like, we know that Josh is like below the mid-level line, below the average line, but I didn't know if he was just going to miss the cusp or just be around the bottom 10. But when looking at his stats, 6 challenge seasons, 3-ish team seasons with War of the Worlds 2, Season 37, and USA 2, and knowing that his daily challenge numbers and win percentage was inflated by being on the dominant USA team on War of the Worlds 2, and then also being on the Emerald team in Season 37 for majority of that time. But even with those inflated numbers, he still only has a 30% daily win percentage. At this moment of filming this video, he has seen 6 eliminations. He is 1-5, winning only against Michi, who I honestly feel was the only person that would lose to Josh in an elimination on double agents. I mean, he didn't go up against layups and lost. He still went up against really strong players, but his elimination win record is 17%. He has seen no finals as of recording this video, and he does bring some drama, but the drama never feels authentic. It doesn't feel real. And I think that some of the fandom can be a little over it. You know, and I think that's where it really locked in for me, is that the people who watch my channel and commented says, we don't like him. We are not buying into what he has been selling us, and we have gone through this for over 6 seasons. And I know, when listening to the Bananas podcast, where he had Josh, Tori, and Sebastian on, I mean, Bananas and Tori want to be like, why do people not like Josh? Why? I don't know why he has some haters out there. He gets as much criticism because of his numbers, and his numbers aren't good. And the drama just isn't up to what we want on the show. So to answer the Bananas podcast being like, how could people still not like Josh, even though Bananas wants to say that he considers him more of a challenger than a Big Brother player at this point, when Tori says that he was always born to be a challenger and not Big Brother, yet he won Big Brother and has not done anything on the challenge. This stat line is why. Next up is Mandy. 4 seasons, has a daily win percentage of only 5%, is 1-3 in eliminations, only being able to win against Nate and Priscilla. Again, she has been paired up with Wes twice, and they have done nothing. The person that she went far with on any season was Jen, and that was because of her social game, and that people did not see them as a threat. Also, she was hooking back up with Wes. And then in the finals, when it came down to performance only, Jen and Mandy showed the true competitors that they were by being DQ'd midway through day 1. And also, there is a very big asterisk next to the one daily challenge that they won. There is speculation that they kind of skated through the rules or kind of broke the rules a little bit, and somehow they were able to win that challenge, which is a very hard challenge. Shauvon. I don't think anybody is surprised that Shauvon has made this list. She's done 3 challenge seasons, and out of those 3 seasons, she has a daily win percentage of 17%. She is 0-for-1 in eliminations, losing to Anissa in the Duel 2's first elimination. But also, she quit an elimination. In season 20, Cutthroat, she was supposed to go into an elimination against Katie, and she decided to say, no thank you, I am done. She also got medically disqualified from the Ruins because of her most famous moment.
Like, I'm not kidding, it's like burning. Like, I think I popped my plant.
Looking back at her track record, I honestly am puzzled why Shauvon was called up so many times and got 3 seasons. Somebody else that got a ton of chances, more chances than I would have thought, or anybody would have thought, is Tyree. 6 challenge seasons, a daily win percentage of 20%, 0-for-5 in eliminations, having similar stat line to Danny, who also had an overwhelming amount of responses to who is the worst challenger of all time. Tyree was also up there with a lot of people saying his name as well. Tyree, just like Derrick Henry, was a high school athlete, a college athlete, coming into the game, coming into each and every season being like, all right, he's tall, he's big, but yet faltered at every single opportunity and big moment that he was put in, and he just couldn't get the job done. And the final contestant that I put into the worst challengers of all time is none other than Vinny. Vinny Fodi did 3 challenge seasons, 1 team season, and in that 1 team season, he was one of the top 3 quickest men. He was chosen in the first round, yet he has a 29% win record in daily challenges. He's 0-for-2 in an elimination, losing to Kenny and Laurel, and then losing to Big Easy. And in the one time he did stir up drama on a season, he was being DQ'd because he was a disgusting creep by pulling down Mandy's top in a bar while he was drunk, and then sabotaged not only his game, but Sarah's game as well. And he was not sorry about it. Being the first to the gulag proved that he had some athletic ability. Like, him and Sarah together should have been a real strong duo, yet he stunk. Again, not saying any one of these players are definitively the worst player in challenge history. I just went through it alphabetical order. Here's the list again. I just went through alphabetical order, went through all the stats and the reasonings of why I deemed them in the bottom 10. Who out of these players do you think is the worst? Let me know down in the comment section below. Do you agree with this list? If so, that's cool. Thank you. We're on the same page. And if you don't agree, well, let me know down in the comment section below who you think should be swapped out of this list, who should be swapped in, and why. I want to give a special thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to give a thank you to everyone for over the years, the support that you've shown by watching the videos, leaving comments, subscribing. I really, really appreciate it. I am humbled and blessed to have gotten past such a big mile marker. Like, 30,000 is such a big number in my opinion. Like, when starting this channel and going through the challenge and starting with reviews and recaps for Final Reckoning, as the years went on and my production went up, learning how to do green screen, still learning how to do the green screen, talking about all different types of shows and doing all different styles of content, whether it's reviews and recaps, top 5, top 10, stat videos, the old podcast episodes, these types of videos. starting the Patreon, doing all that content over there as well, getting cool with the lives. I just want to say thank you, because when starting to watch the challenge and making my small videos of me yelling at a camera across the room, using the camera mic that I had, and it sounding like I was in an empty room talking about a show that I was obsessed with, I never really thought that we would get to this point. And I just really, really appreciate everybody who has joined me on this journey. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I still have a ton of content that is to come for this year and for years to come. I just wanted to say thank you, reflect over this time, reflect over the years, and just want to show my appreciation, as well as there's still more to come. So thank you again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope everybody has a great day. And until next time, peace.